What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk to you about SoFi. I want to go over some expectations for this upcoming week, what might cause some volatility in the stock price, and go over everything else that you need to know. But first, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up, and with that, let's get right to it. So SoFi did have some pretty good momentum on Friday, so a lot of individuals will be looking for that momentum to be continued forward. This upcoming week, Monday, isn't all that much, so we have more of a reflection day. So this is a good opportunity for the market to really move higher, assuming there isn't anything random that does come out associated to, let's say, tariffs. Hopefully we have 1 week where we don't kind of discuss that like on a daily basis. But aside from that, though, you do have JOLT numbers coming out on Tuesday, CPI Wednesday, PPI Thursday, and then Friday, Michigan consumer sentiment. And at the end of the day, that is one of the actual reasons why all of this fear did start, because you had the FOMC minutes that came out 2 weeks ago almost. Then you had Walmart earnings coupled with this on Friday, so the Michigan consumer sentiment, and that altogether showed that there was a lot more inflationary fear starting to surge because of tariffs. And since then, I feel like that's just been the topic of conversation over the last week. So when it comes down to a lot of these data points, each has its own opportunity to really move the market higher or potentially break it. So at the end of the day, just anticipate a lot of volatility. And aside from that, there isn't anything specific to SoFi this week, so no fireside chats, nothing like that that could really help SoFi kind of defy being moved by the broader market. There is one thing that essentially could help banks, and that was this that came out on Friday. So the OCC did comment on crypto and what that means for banks. They did reconfirm what was already stated back in January, so January 30th, 2025. Ultimately signaled that banks can actually be the custodian of crypto assets. So I think we got the nice rubber stamp from now SEC and now OCC. So yeah, it's just now a matter of time just before SoFi does fully commit and put out the news. Hey, we are going to be pursuing crypto once again. So that would be huge for the stock price, in my opinion. So hopefully that comes sooner rather than later. I know I've kind of complained about SoFi being fairly safe, but at the end of the day, I think that this is a good move for them. Just Anthony needs to jump on board. So let me know your viewpoint on that. So I know a lot of people were kind of talking about this update from the OCC over the last little bit. As well, it kind of does state that they don't need any actual like rubber stamp. They don't need any approval beforehand. They can kind of just do what needs to be done. So kind of a good thing in my opinion. As far as shorts, giving you a quick overview. So this is Lucid. You guys don't need to see Lucid, but pulling up SoFi. So going into this upcoming week, 12.31% of the free float is being shorted. Works out to be 132.67 million shares overall are being shorted. Shorts on Friday, they did return a little bit, breaking the trend that they were kind of doing. So they returned 157,000 shares, but with all of this craziness, all of this opportunity this upcoming week for us to really move higher or break, they'll be very much reacting to a lot of that data. So anticipate shorts to be fairly active. And honestly, cost to borrow minimum is always permanently going to be negative from now on, it looks like. So that's kind of always a fun thing to pay attention to. But as far as the open interest, so with it closing at the end of the day, what was it, 12.59? So with it closing at 12.59, that does mean that the 12.50 strike prices and below are all essentially in the money, but you don't really see anything crazy. So 2,000 at the 12.50, 2,000 at the 11.50. So you won't see any bump up come Monday because of that. And even looking forward into this upcoming week, you're not seeing any crazy walls, somewhere maybe around that $14.50 to $15 if it does recover. But still, I think there's just a lot of grayness on what could potentially happen. On the call option front though, from Friday, you do see a consensus for it to get roughly around that price point, so the 14 to 14.50. So that's kind of a good thing. Bears on the flip side are anticipating for it to be sub $12. So more of a continued push lower. And when it comes to just on the technicals, so with it at $12.59, trading between this S2 and this S3, so 1131 will be that next strong support. I don't see that being touched unless, let's say, Jolt numbers come out a lot worse than the forecast. And right now the forecast, I believe, is 7.5 million. And then even CPI, so the following day on Wednesday, if very negative and if it comes in hotter than anticipated, then you could potentially see that 1131. But flip side, so 1272 and then 1359 will be two key kind of points and targets for SoFi to hopefully push higher with. As I've mentioned, I think SoFi has just been stuck within a set range between 13 and 17. On occasion, you always get it kind of broken below or above that, but I think in general, it kind of will bounce back to that area. Just it needs that nice little push coming from the data points this week. And there hasn't been any new analyst ratings, nothing along those lines, no substantial articles. It's actually been relatively quiet associated to SoFi, but on the actual chart itself, this is where you're kind of seeing potentially a further pullback, and that's just because it's kind of stuck in no man's land. It is below that 100-day moving average, which right now is sitting at $14.38. Flip side, you have the 200-day moving average at $10.80. Couple key points as well based on the fib level, support and resistance that I did bring up as well, so you kind of can plot those, but it is essentially not looking all that great based on the actual chart. The only positive, like I said, is if we have some good data points this upcoming week, you could see a nice recovery. Even in SoFi's case, it is considered very oversold. So stochastic RSI is at like 4.77. So essentially, if you have some good data on specific to SoFi or just the broader market, you could see a push higher. And with this recent update from the OCC, I feel like this would be a very good advantageous time if, let's say, Anthony or Chris do a fireside chat talking about cryptocurrency and what this new kind of updates means and how SoFi is going to really kind of take advantage of that for their benefit. So let me know your general thoughts on SoFi. Do you think we're going to see a green week closing, or do you think it's going to be pulling back? Over the last week, it did go down 14.76%, so definitely not all that great. I did underperform quite significantly, but it happens. That's what obviously always happens with SoFi. One thing to take note of, though, is if you've been really monitoring what is happening with the money market. So just based on this, so last week, so week to week, as of March the 6th, money markets did increase by $51.15 billion. So that does mean money from crypto as well as the equity markets were leaving to go to money market. And so it is sitting at $7.03 trillion. So there's a hell of a lot of fear in the broader market. So with these data points coming out this week, you could see maybe a calming in the broader market and possibly prompting some of this money that's sitting on the sidelines to rotate back in. But that's one thing that I always do bring up is the volume. And whether I'm talking about cryptocurrency, which I do crypto videos as well on other YouTube channels, and just equities, they have been historically a lot lower now than what they were, even if you look back 3 months, 6 months, 1 year. So it goes to show there is a certain level of fear. And once we actually have some good data to pretty much piggyback off of what Powell mentioned on Friday, how the economy is fairly good, then you'll start to see this rotation happen. But this is a good representation of exactly what I'm talking about. So money markets, it's just at all-time highs. So it is kind of crazy at the end of the day, but when it comes down to it, we could see a nice rotation similar to what happened between 2020 and 2021. And we already do know what happened during that time period. Everything and their dog went up like crazy. So even in SoFi's case, obviously with this recent price action, it's kind of not really giving it its justice, but it went from like $11 to like $24. That happened to pretty much every single stock. 2021 was euphoria. So yeah, let me know your general thoughts on SoFi. Where do you see things going? Do you think that this update associated to crypto they're going to take advantage of, or is that going to be something that they kind of sit on the sidelines with for a year and then they eventually do something? Like, what's your general thoughts on all that? And with that said, I appreciate all of you watching. Hopefully everyone's having an amazing weekend. One final thing, pop over to my Discord. It is completely free. A lot of good people talking about stocks, options, crypto, everything that you ever want. So with all that said, appreciate all of you watching.